addressing some of the nastiness going around in a certain community. It all stems from a nasty incident of E-Thotting and simping. User known as JD had been playing many men in her circles. Despite being married, she had convinced more than a few men in her circles she would leave her husband for them. It started off the way simping often does. A woman who doesn't deserve attention gets it from men who are gullible enough to believe they are the special ones. In this case, JD convinced several men in her circles that her husband was a brutish man whom she was days away from separating and divorcing. She told sob stories to these men. She convinced these men to buy her video games, in addition to add-ons for video games she already owned. She promised to have children with these men, who basically were attracted to the thought of having a family and children. None of these men knew there were other men she was stringing along. In the meantime, she convinced these men they were special by exchanging the usual E-Thot pics. I'm sure you can use your imagination, but they did include beef curtains and brown eyes winking, in spite of her looking like the human embodiment of a UTI. In the meantime, a fallout began as her precarious house of cards began to tumble. She surrounded herself with moderators and orbiters who would defend her, despite her activities. Many probably did not know she was leading these men on. These mods and orbiters became increasingly belligerent at mentions of simping and E-Thotting as a negative, in spite of most of them claiming to be part of the trad movement, or at least closely identifying with it. Eventually, seeing her house of cards about to tumble, she voluntarily left the community from which she swiped her orbiters, as to try and stop people from knowing her exploits. Gag orders were issued, as some saw the event as a stain on reputations that could possibly not be repaired. In the meantime, JD hung out in her own private server, most likely spinning the situation to make her look like the victim. Her orbiters continued to insulate her from possible criticisms. People ignorant of the situation felt the need to stick their assumptions into things. These individuals know nothing of what was really going on. JD's orbiters and E-friends have taken it upon themselves to discipline any dissenters, possibly in an effort to reintroduce her back into the community. Let it be known, E-Thotting is gross, and there is blame to be passed around on all sides. However, there is more blame on one side. There's clearly one side who is more wrong than the other. Never should this behavior be tolerated in a community that advocates a trad family. The kinds of things going on you'd expect to find in leftist communities ad nauseum. People were taken advantage of because a woman pretended to want nothing other than a traditional relationship. This is, however, proven false by the sharing of nudes with multiple men at the same time and promises of marriage to several men. Thankfully, it seems some of the men have realized the trap they fell into. But there are still bitter clingers who still cling to the hope that they will someday be the special one. On the internet, no one is special. Realize that no matter what sex or walk of life, all sides are capable of disgusting things. In this case, it's E-Thotting and simping. Hopefully, you too will see the light of what's really been going on and why some have had enough. You're all horrible people. None of you are better than the others. However, some are more horrible than others. Know who is really trying to be a less horrible person, and who the devil behind the beef curtains is. This has been Yambag Jamma. Have a thoughtless day.